From now on, in the beginning of every single video I make, I'll be telling you guys what type of deck of cards I'm using in that video. The main reason is because you guys might want to buy it for yourselves because it looks cool or it looks nice. And I don't want you guys to rummage through the comment section trying to find it yourselves because I know it's time consuming and I know it's a hassle. So I'm here to do it for you. Today we are using Fontaine X Braindead. It is a collaboration made by Fontaine Cards, and it looks very nice as you can see. Now, onto the topic. We are going to learn about how to keep your cards in good condition. And the reason why I don't say perfect is because it is impossible to keep your cards in perfect condition unless you never open it and you seal it. But we're trying to use our cards, now aren't we? So, here's the first thing you need to know. Always keep your hands clean. Clean hands equals a clean deck. Now, what I would recommend is that, let's say you had some Korean barbecue chicken, right? So you ate that chicken, it's delicious, but now your hands are all greasy. What do? Don't touch your cards. Go wash your hands first. Why? Because the grease will get onto the cards. The handling is going to be messy. The card friction is going to be garbage. Your fans are going to look like trash. It's going to be terrible. That's why I always keep your hands clean. But that doesn't mean you need to wash your hands every time you want to, mess around with your cards. It's just in situations where the things on your hand might damage the card. So, for example, grease, dirt. I don't even want to know what other things you might have. Stuff like that. Now, the second thing is have a poop deck. Now, this one costs money. The first one was completely free. Go ahead, use it whatever you want. But the second one requires you to buy another deck of cards. Now, a poop deck, it doesn't mean like buy a crappy deck of cards. A poop deck is basically you buy the deck of cards knowing that you're going to keep it in terrible condition. So, for example, this one, I do not even have the casing for it. I'm missing about 5 cards from the deck. And as you can see, the cards are very bent and the corners are also very messy and ugly. It's actually still somewhat okay, but yeah, like, do you see that? Ugly. Also, the handling is really bad. And also, right here, you can see the corners are all scratched up. Now, the reason why you want to have this is because, let's say you're starting a new trick or a new move in cardistry or magic. We all know you're not going to perfect it the first time. No one is perfect. They're not going to perfect the shot, unless you're lucky. Maybe you can perfect it on your first try. And it does happen sometimes. But most of the time, it doesn't. So during those situations, what happens to the cards? You either drop them, you mess up, you might accidentally bend it too hard and it becomes like this, right? And what do you do then? I mean, you just end up having really, really crappy cards by the end after you finish practicing. That's why you have a poop deck. You use this to practice your moves. So let's say I want to learn the worm first, right? I'll use this deck to practice the move first. And once I perfected it, I'll go back to using the deck I want to use. And then, boom, you got your move, your deck is perfectly fine, and nothing wrong ever happened. So for poop decks, I would recommend buying either Bicycle or just any cheap deck of cards you can find. Never use plastic though, because plastic sucks. Unless you just want to play card games. I mean, plastic is fine for that, I guess. Third thing you want to do is you want to always handle your cards gently. By gently, I mean basically, if you can't do something, don't throw it on the ground or don't be mad at it, make sure you handle your cards diligently and carefully. This is not a very useful tip, but this is something one of my friends told me that I should add into this. I don't know why. I thought it was kind of stupid, but hey. Another thing you want to do if you don't want to buy a poop deck and you still want to practice with the main deck of cards you're using, I would recommend actually practicing on somewhere like a bed. And the main reason why I say that is because if you drop your cards, then that happens is that it lands on your soft bed. Like nothing terrible is going to happen to it. You can just pick it up and start over from there. That's a very cheap option, but this is an option if you're trying to do something on the go, I guess. Now, another thing that a lot of people use that I personally don't like using, but apparently it does help your fans become really smooth and does help in situations such as riffle fans or such as dribbling. It's apparently called, I think it was called fan powder. I'm not really sure. It's basically this thing you can get on Amazon. I don't know how much, but it's to keep the friction between your cards very smooth, because once you have cards for a very long time, you start realizing that the friction between your cards become more sticky, and then your fans start looking like I don't know, like a big chunky mess. But this fan powder basically helps your cards keep that smooth friction going and keep your decks very clean, I guess. Not clean, but more yeah, smooth is the only word I can actually think of. So, yeah, that's actually pretty much all I could give advice. A few more things actually, maybe for the tuck case. So, as you can see, actually I kept the bottom wrapper for this, and the reason is because I wanted to keep the box in good condition. Now this is for if you want to keep the box in good condition. Unfortunately, I messed up the edges, is because I opened them very hastily and very strong, I guess, which is why they're all messed up. I usually do this if I want to keep it clean and if I want to keep it in good condition. Another thing I do is I actually have a deck case. So a deck case is basically a little slot you put in for your cards, just like so. That's so when you put it in your pocket, you know, the box doesn't bend or dent, and this metal box will keep it safe from denting. That's an option to keep your box safe. Oh, right. I just remembered the last thing. That's great. Another thing you want to have is copies. So let's say this deck, right? Let's say you did all the steps, you washed your hands and all of that, but your cards are still messy and ugly just because maybe you were showing a move off to your friends, like this or something, right? And then you dropped it, and then you're like, oh no. Copies. Always buy copies. Now this is a more expensive option, but usually I buy copies because I want to use one for myself, keep one as a backup, and then buy a third one if I want to sell it. Now, in this deck cases scenario, hang on, I'm going to move the camera a little bit here. I actually bought 12 of them. Now, in the card world, this is called a brick, and they usually come in stuff like this. They fit 12 decks in here, and yeah, I did that. It costs a lot of money. I would not do this if you're not an avid collector, but if you want to flex, yeah. Okay, so that's actually everything I have for today. I hope you guys like this video, and yeah, I'll go back to you. See ya.